have a problem with the word higher consciousness and the hierarchy that that represents. The idea that somehow people with higher consciousness are better than, superior than, above others. Even the word consciousness presents a problem for me, because in circles where it's an important concept, it confers a sense of superiority. That there are those who are conscious and those who are unconscious. Rather than seeing it as a process, it's seen as an attainment. It's like a flower celebrating that it opened. It doesn't celebrate its openness, it just happens. Consciousness arises. It's a built-in process for human beings. Not everybody gets there in terms of fulfilling the possibility of consciousness or the expansion of consciousness. Not everybody arrives at some ultimate peak or pinnacle. It's happening for the sake not of each individual, but for the sake of the planet, for the sake of being itself. I watch my grandchildren, and it astounds me truly to watch them, because I'm seeing them become people. I'm seeing these infantile efforts at community, communication, facility with being, become more and more expert. And the joy in their faces when they can really express themselves, say what they want to say, attain a certain amount of maturity. My granddaughter has now lost her second tooth. The pride in losing teeth, I never imagined or remember the pride in losing teeth, but it absolutely, she just wants to grin at you all the time because there's these holes in her mouth. And my grandson learned how to pee in the toilet this last 2 weeks. The pride and pleasure of doing it is so phenomenal. And he's learning how to say, I want instead of me want. It just happened. It just occurred as part of the learning process of being a person. He is not a better person than the kid in diapers. He is not. He feels it perhaps, but he is just on the spectrum of unfolding, of flowering as a person. That's what we're all doing. Each one of us unfolds according to circumstance, the luck of the draw in terms of where we're born, what family we're born into, what circumstances have arisen that make it easier or harder. As we all know, the universe produces thousands of seeds in all of its plants, and only a small percentage actually get planted, grow roots, rise into the sunlight, and open. Many do not. It's kind of luck of the draw. If you end up on the pavement, you're going to have very little chance of fulfilling the promise of that seed form. If you land in perfect soil, what a gift. There is in the natural world and in the human world, if you want to make them separate, a sort of competitive edge of people who want the sunlight, trees that want the sunlight, those that want advantage, those that want more. There is a kind of urgency toward all of that in day-to-day life. You know, there's certain kind of criteria to be met in elementary school. You see the kids who are learning to read before you, and you either feel, oh my God, I'm no good, or I'm going to work really hard to learn how to read as well as they are. We stimulate each other, or we become obstructions for one another. It's all part of the human unfolding, all part of the drama. We're all working for higher stages. We want to graduate from kindergarten to first grade, from elementary school to high school to college. It's kind of built in structurally into the society, into the culture, and into us. There is that incredible desire to do more, to do better, to acquire, to have more, to have it all, as they say in our Western culture, have it all. This is part of nature. This is sort of how it works. We are programmed, if you will, to struggle, to rise above circumstance, to attain, to get something that feels higher. The problem is there is an underlying reality observing this process. It is watching this thing happen from a very central, still-pointed clarity. And it's really there, if you will, with the potential to help you navigate the circumstances of your life, to help you navigate the fact that you may not have this gift, but you have that gift, or you may have that awareness and not this awareness. It helps you figure out how to best maximize the reality that you have found yourself in. The thing that's missing in our culture and in our education is finding that navigational system that will help you know these things. So most of us are in a way adrift in a very circumstantial world with a great deal of sadness, discomfort, failure, feelings that we couldn't get there, or we did get there and don't know how we got there, or what to do with it when we're there because we're not happy, we're not satisfied, we're not complete. There are all of these extraordinary issues that are going on in the human condition that are, in a sense, there because all of this stuff that's programmed into us does not program us for ultimate satisfaction, ultimate completion. There's something beyond our grasp, and we all know it. We all feel it. And worse than that, we all know that everything we finally do get and accomplish and arrive at is going to be taken away. So we suffer this sense of, what is it for? What is this series of evolutions, this series of graduations, this series of getting bigger and better and clearer and higher? What is that about when in fact all of it adds up to very, very little? In fact, many spiritual teachings will tell you it adds up to zero. Because it has no lasting, permanent reality. It's a temporary journey. What does one do about that? How do you move to a place of higher consciousness when in fact consciousness is just an awareness of the impermanence of everything? What's higher consciousness? What is higher consciousness? Somewhere in this journey of being human, we start to feel disempowered, and we feel a sense of profound sadness and struggle. It may not happen till the end of your life. It may happen in kindergarten. It can happen at anywhere along the way. You'll start to feel something is amiss. That's a gift, because it will start to turn you into yourself. What's wrong with me? What's my problem? Why am I so unhappy? Why does everybody else seem to get it and I don't get it? It's this internal thing that starts to put you inside looking for answers. Looking for answers is the beginning of a quest. It's also, for some people, the beginning of enormous disruption. Because it becomes a kind of something's wrong with me, I got a problem, I don't know what to do, da, da, da. It becomes the noise of the brain, and it becomes something so large that it really obstructs you from finally going to a place inside that says, shh, here's what's wrong, here's the problem, here's what you can do. In other words, the solution. Something in you knows. Something in you has an answer. Only by posing the question do the answers begin to arise. Once you get rid of posing the question, you have to wait for an answer. It doesn't always come like that. You have to pose the question in a place of such need and depth that you just go, help me. I don't know what to do. What's wrong? Please, help me. That's the beginning of a real unfolding of a human being. And it's an essential moment, because as long as you feel you got it, you've got it all, you're on a very long ride up until maybe the last breath, where you realize you don't get it at all. That everything you lived for was a joke, was a waste of time, was a impermanent truth or reality. Now you may get to that moment and go, yes, which is great. I mean, that's a possibility. You may get to the end of a very long ride and go, that was amazing, now take it away. But most of us, we begin to have existential problems along the way, and finding that deep spot in yourself because of your search allows you to begin to feel something as a guide inside you, a kind of knowing, a kind of okay. And this thing will start to move through the system and give you a kind of directionality that will help your life. If you find a deep enough version of this inner directionality, you will find that it is not hierarchical. It is not about making you better than others. It's not about giving you advantage. It's not about making you permanent in a world of impermanence. What it is it brings you into the heart of mystery and wonder. And I've talked about this a lot. It is not possible for the human mind to know the ultimate of what this is. It's not built for that. It can't get there. I've been thinking of it recently. It's like our minds are a computer. And what most people don't know is they are connected to the cloud. The cloud knows everything. It has all the answers. The cloud is within. When you finally go into the cloud, you don't have to have an operating system that's filling up. You don't have any more stored memory. You don't have any more informational capacity. You are filled up, and you're completely at a loss. If you go into the cloud, you don't have to store all that stuff. You just go deep inside, and the cloud is here. The cloud is within. It's really digging into the thing that knows and is and has all the storage ever needed for you, for all your dreams and recollections. It has storage for everything, but it's bigger than a storage system. It is the ultimate operating system. It is that thing which knows you and everyone else and all there is, and knows the truth of being. And if you can open to that operating system, you become one with the operating system. You're not limited by the hard drive. You're not limited by anything. You have a place to go that knows what is. I hypothesize that even the cloud does not fully know its own genesis, its own truth. The cloud is everything there is, and it too is seeking through all of the little computers that we have put out there. All of us little operating systems are all feeding into the cloud to give it more information about what it is. On the other hand, it is conceivable, at least from the position of the operating system, that the cloud knows enough, perhaps it knows everything, for us to settle back, open to its truth, and let it influence how we live day to day. In the end, how much advantage is there? How much hierarchy is there? So maybe you're 10, it's not, what are they called? Terabytes? 500 terabytes? I don't know. The big computers are maybe 1,000,000 terabytes. I don't know. It's nothing compared to the cloud. If you have 1,000,000 terabytes, you just have more to fill up. But in the end, you can get just as stuck, just as confounded by life as somebody with 18 gigabytes. But trust me, there are people out there, that's all they got, 18. They came in at a cheap price, they have a life that has very few gigabytes, but they are connected as well to the cloud as you are, if they want to be. They are as available to all of that as you are. Where is the hierarchy? Somebody with 5,000 terabytes or somebody with 28? The one who's collected to the cloud has infinite awareness. And that's what we're trying to find in ourselves. Not the hierarchy, but the shared oneness of the cloud. That's what we're looking for as human beings. We're looking to be one with ourself, with the great self that embodies all of us. This higher consciousness, oh, I've got the cloud and you don't. It's not true. It's not true. Everyone has the cloud at their disposal if they will do one thing, tap into it. Just go into the cloud. Enter into it, surrender, everything you need will come. Everything. And if you don't need it, then it won't show up. But you'll be surprised at how allowing and giving and providing the cloud is for all of us. I have a real problem with people walking around thinking that they are spiritual. Meaning, I guess, they have tapped into the cloud. And I look at them and I go, okay, but there's nobody here who's not, in a sense, a manifestation of that cloud. Why are you, because you know it, better than somebody else? Why has that elevated you to a place of higher consciousness? Or what if you have a supercomputer in your brain, if you're Albert Einstein or somebody else, and you can compute faster and better than anyone else? It's still nothing compared to the cloud. The person with 10 gigabytes and the person with 500 terabytes are neither better or less. We are all a mechanism that is fed by, supported by, and enveloped by this cloud of knowing. I don't want to get overly dependent on this idea, but I want it to sink in that we are all in this together. Not one of us as people knows all the answers. The cloud may have all the answers, but it seems to me it gives you mostly an availability to have everything by knowing nothing. The more you get out of the way, the more the cloud just takes over. It just filters through. It speaks through your mouth. It feels through your head. It knows the world through your body-mind complex. It allows itself to be present in the world. It allows you to be a manifestation of that presence. It is so exquisite what we are. And when you become humble, whether you're 2 terabytes or 1 kilobyte or whatever. Whatever you are, you just go, thy will be done. And the cloud works. It works. I spent 5 days in Sedona last week at a film festival called Conscious Cinema. I'm not sure why I went. I was asked to go, and I also, in a way, couldn't see a reason not to go. I had had warnings about Sedona being a place of very New Age. Whatever New Age represents to you, New Age really in some ways is people of higher consciousness, people who have somehow tapped into the cloud. Or who have computers, really, that know all about the cloud. Much more of that than in a way tapped in. They have a whole memory system of cloud information coming from Google and coming from God knows what, and they walk around going, I know all this stuff. I have it in my computer. And you walk into the town, and every other store is a massage therapist, it's a healer, it's a psychic, it's completely New Age town. I didn't get to the downtown area, which is touristy, they say, but I was walking along a long strip where all the stores are pushed along to the side. So they're like mini malls forever, and there's just these streets, sidewalk, cars, mini mall off to the side, and totally not available to human beings. Hardly anybody walking but me and Blanche. And then off in the distance are the most beautiful mountains you have ever seen. Red rocks that are like, that people call them vortexes of energy, and in fact, they're just beautiful. It's their beauty that radiates. It's their existence that radiates. The carved, exquisite aesthetic that radiates. It's so really beautiful. But then there are all these people around it who try to maximize that beauty and make it their own. Make it, we live here and therefore we're better. And I had a hard time with that. And I went to this festival trying to show conscious cinema, and they were, for the most part, films preaching to the choir, trying to tell people how special they were, how wonderful they are in their spirituality. And the only thing I wanted to say to them, and did say, quite honestly, is stop making spiritual movies. Talk to people. Don't just talk to yourselves. Don't become evangelical, selling the New Age hierarchical system. We can't do that. If we become smug and separated in our spiritual unfolding, then you haven't unfolded at all. Then you've just taken one pair of clothes and put on robes. It's just another form of specialness or identity. You have to get free. You don't have to do anything, but it helps to be free of all of that stuff. The cloud doesn't care how you dress. It just cares that you're clothed. It cares that you're cared for. It cares that you are honored for your being. That's what it cares about. And every one of you is that. But to walk around in the insecurity of needing to post a sign saying, I am cared for and special, I am this, I am that, that's not it. That's advertising your computer's processing speed. It has nothing to do with anything. So I'm just trying to help break down this idea that somehow meditation, spirituality, higher consciousness is better than something else. It's just another operating system in the world. What you want to be is free of labels, free of this is how it is, free of the evangelical principle of converting people to your way of seeing. What you want to be is just real and you. The real you is something that floods through the system and is available at all times, this cloud of being that you represent. that you are a spokesperson for. You are a living manifestation of this higher awareness. And in that, trust me, you will become very humble. You will become basically no thing. You will become that through which this remarkable knowing flows, or even more importantly, this not knowing flows. Because knowing means it's the computer operating. Slow down the computer and let this thing pour through. You don't need the computer at all. Bless you. You don't need the computer. The computer is a processor that tries to deal with all that flux of information or knowing. But what really happens, which is so fascinating, is without the computer moderating it, it's just what needs to be is. What needs to be known is known. Awareness arises as it needs to and subsides as it needs to. Joy comes into the system and joy disappears from the system. It's not yours. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a computer with the newest operating system. All you have to be is available to the flow. This extraordinary wisdom of knowing and not knowing that enters and flows through this temporary space that you occupy. I found myself in Sedona getting very angry. I hardly ever get angry. But I was so angry at all of this specialness, at all of this preening about we have, we are. It made me crazy. And I started getting angry at people. We had a meeting of 30 people to discuss rebranding this particular festival. And everybody had to come up with 6 words defining who they are, like, spiritual, loving, kind, all this stuff that was going around the room. And I'm going, oh my God. And so my 6 words were, I do not like these gatherings. And everybody laughed because that's exactly what they were feeling. But nobody wanted to say it. It's because we're all caught in the same dynamic of how many gigabytes do you have operating? We're all caught in that. We have to be honest. We have to be true. And the cloud allows truth because it's not preening, it's not trying to be something. It already is what it is. And it's already so vast and so compassionate and so alive that who cares? Who cares how big your operating system is? Anyway, enough of the metaphor, enough of the talk. I'm just trying to get this simple thing through to everybody, that if you want to speak to the world and you want to help people and you want to be a good, loving human being, stop being hierarchical and just be simple, real, immediate, and what and who you are. That's the greatest gift imaginable to the planet. It's the greatest gift imaginable to you. It frees you of your story, which separates you from the whole. You are not separate. You've never been separate. You are one with the cloud. We are the cloud. The end. Any questions? I remember, this really helped me because I was so angry, and I really caught with anger. And I don't really get angry very often. And then I remembered Christ in the temple throwing over the tables with the money changers. And I said, okay, I'm going to be angry. Because that's what I'm seeing. People defiling the temple. It's not to be defiled. And you have every right in the world to go no and throw the tables over and to be angry. And I stopped being critical of myself for being angry because really I don't hardly ever get angry. Boy, oh boy, it's a new thing that's happening. I'm getting angry and I'm losing my mind all at the same time. So it's things are washing away, and it's been an amazing thing to see who one is when there's no you. And also, it's not like a singular burst of awareness. It is this new flowering that takes place, that the awakening experience is an ongoing flowering. And even enlightenment and awakening are just little passageways where you finally go, okay, I don't need the computer. Now how do you operate in the cloud? That's really what it is. How do you operate in the cloud? And in a way, you don't have to operate. You just have to settle in. And settling in is it's a process. And you settle in and you find yourself going into something that we're all aiming at in a way. We're all aiming at how to become who we are. And if there's any gradation at all, it's just getting closer and closer to going, oh. You know, ultimate graduation, your PhD thesis finally is, period. Period. That's it. That's what we're doing, guys. So get rid of your specialness and just settle in and be what I've discovered is really the best thing in the operating system is grateful. Just grateful.
How was your message received?
I think very well. You know, I don't know for sure. I mean, by that I just mean people laughed. I always take laughter as a good thing. And I talked at the conference about how to write spiritual films. I said, stop making spiritual films. That's how you don't make films that isolate and particulate, that make this vast truth into something small and containable, because it's not small and containable, and ultimately it's agenda-driven, and it's very evangelical. And I personally, you give me an evangelical film, and I run the other way. I was at the Buddhist Film Festival yesterday, and there was a film it's called Wandering, and I thought, I'm curious to see that. I want to see this film, and forgive me, whoever made the film, but, you know, I could tell by the first shot, after the first shot was still running 5 minutes later, nothing had moved. This guy just kind of moved through the frame like this. I said, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Maybe there were 12 shots in the whole movie. I don't know. But I started nodding off like this. And I would wake up and it's the same shot. Nod off again. And I'm going, who is he preaching to? Who cares about this? Who cares about watching somebody wander, really? That's not what storytelling is. It's not. There's no awareness for me. There was nothing. It was just somebody who ultimately he becomes a monk in the end. But okay, so how do we tell these stories? Well, I always say the best spiritual movie I ever saw is Casablanca. And I try to repeat that as often as I can because it's a great story. And it's a love story where the guy doesn't get the girl in the end. What he gets is himself. He discovers in letting go of the girl, announcing that we don't amount to a hill of beans in this world, he gives her over to the larger cause to be with her husband. And he walks off with Claude Rains, Humphrey Bogart, and says this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. But what he's done is he's had the courage to let go of the love of his life for something greater. That's the message, guys. That selflessness is the message. That courage is the message. And it's a great movie. That's a spiritual movie. Nobody's going to call that a spiritual movie. Nobody. But that's what it is. Those are the movies we want to make. The movies about human being, about what it takes to be noble, to find the courage to be yourself, to discover how you slay the dragon in yourself as well as outside yourself, how you have the courage to find love in life. That's spiritual, if you will. And if you call it spiritual, no one will see it. So don't call it spiritual. Just call it a great movie with Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. And you got it. You've sold it. And that's all you have to do. That's our journey. Demystify this thing. Be real. Enough. Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys.